How much do you think you know about yourself? In the simplest form, habits are what make our behavioral tendencies and influences our decisions. It's the small choices that we make that can bring considerable change and benefits to our life when they add up. As such, it is important that we are able to understand and adopt positive changes that we want to make in our daily life and maintain them over time. Habits are like icebergs. When seen from the top, they may seem small, but actually massive when seen from underneath. And their effects can go a long way for our physical health and mental wellness, as explained by Dr. Felix Norton, a behavioral change consultant. And on the contrary, psychological studies have also attributed reduced levels of mental wellness to bad habits, like using electronic devices before going to bed and also having an inadequate amount of sleep every night. So in this video, we'll be discussing some of the common bad habits that students may have, how they may affect us, and also on the different ways in which you can recognize them, to hopefully provide some useful insights and allow for you to introduce change into your life, to live each day as best as you can. In our daily life, many of the actions that make up our day that we engage in are a result of habitual patterns. Activities such as waking up in the morning each day to have breakfast, going out for a jog, making a time to study, or even choosing to play games, these are all habitual. And even without us realizing it, we naturally tend to carry out these actions and patterns in our routine each day, as we've grown to be comfortable with them. As such, most of the things that we do and the decisions that we make may not always be from our own decision making or willpower, with research instead showing that habits form from human behavior being repeated often enough in the same context. The habits we have thus all vary and differ from individual. This means that confronting some of your habits can be made tougher than others, when they may have a greater impact in your life. So now that we've been made aware of how our habits influence our lives, you may be asking how we can deconstruct them for us to be better able to understand how our habits work. Habits form through a series of events that can be called the habit loop. The habit loop is a framework that can be used to deconstruct how our habits work and the formation and destruction of habits. During this process, three main components influence the start and development of the habit. This habit loop comprises of the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the main trigger that leads or encourages you to take action or perform the behavior and can be further categorized under location, time, current emotional state, people around you, and your last action. This can be anything that reminds you of the habit, such as a smell or a word, a person, or even a feeling that results in a subconscious need to initiate the habit. Now that you know more about habits and how they work through the habit loop, wouldn't it be great if you could use them to develop certain behaviors that we want to become the better person that we want to be? But the thing is that we all have our bad habits that get in the way of that, and of you achieving your goals. And the moment we slip into our routine, it becomes a challenge to stop an undesired behavior. At first, you may not notice their effects until it's too late, to the point where you have to deal with the consequences. Bad habits can come from boredom, stress, a lack of control, or as a result of external factors, and ultimately get in the way of your work life, personal growth, and relationships. As we previously discussed, the framework that we use to discuss the source of habits was identified as the habit loop. It is a reason for both our good and our bad habits, but in order to get the outcomes that we wish for, we must be able to harness its power. And that is why in this section, we will be discussing on some of the examples of bad habits that we may pick up as students and why we fall into them. Next up is the routine. These follow on and connect your habit to the rest of your actions. This consists of what comes before and after your habit and behavior. Whenever a cue triggers a habit, you begin to follow the usual routine your brain has developed. These series of actions or routines will always be similar or the same subconsciously. Finally, the reward is the outcome you accomplish, such as being relieved or content, something that the brain considers to be a positive outcome. This then leads to an unconscious desire to repeat the habit again and again to achieve the same feelings of satisfaction. Firstly, burning the midnight oil and cramming work the night before. This occurs often due to a few reasons. Some of us may partake in what is called bedtime revenge procrastination, which is a way to find a few hours of entertainment despite losing out on sleep due to not being able to control your daylight hours. It is driven by a daily schedule, lacking in free time, and often high stress. You may continue doing this as you may get more immediate enjoyment out of scrolling through social media, watching TV shows, or gaming, which can lead to us cramming work to make up for the loss of time during the day. There are further psychological factors to this, but sadly, continued behavior of this sort will lead to sleep deprivation and overall negative effects on our health. Managing time poorly. As any student, time is definitely one of the most important assets we have. Hence, it is essential we plan and manage our time wisely to balance work and play. Good time management can and will reduce stress and allows you to free up time to work on your interests, learn better, and most importantly, have sufficient rest when you aren't doing last-minute work. Eating only junk food. Let's face it, it's easier and often cheaper to get junk food than to cook and not eat healthily. It often also gives us that flavour and short-term energy boost that we are craving for. Eating only junk food. Let's face it, it's easier and oftentimes cheaper to get junk food than it is to cook and not eat healthily. It often also gives us that flavour and short-term energy boost that we are craving for. However, the body requires good sources of energy to function, and if you aren't eating healthily, not getting the right nutrients can tire you out quicker and affect your ability to effectively study and concentrate. Being disorganized. I'm more than guilty of this too. It's just so easy to not keep track of things that it's scary when things start to pile up and you're left there feeling overwhelmed. As students, there's just so much that we have to take note of. Exam dates, deadlines, and even our commitments like our home life make managing our study schedules so much tougher. Having a messy workplace at home can also make it harder to concentrate, as an unconducive environment reduces our ability to focus and can create stress and anxiety when trying to do work. Not minimizing distractions and letting them get in the way of your work. The use of phones is a big thing among students, and whether it is for play or work, it is important that we do not let the two mix together, as it can come at the cost of being a huge distraction. The use of phones also shortens our attention spans, and whenever a new notification pops up, your brain releases dopamine, which can make the feeling addicting. This ruins our productivity and can make getting work done even harder when we do not stay on task. Even though bad habits happen subconsciously, if you were to focus on the process, it could help you to eliminate bad habits. Now here are some tips to get started. Based on the habit loop framework, you can start by first identifying the routine, where we find the behavior that we wish to change. Next, we find the cue for the routine and the reason we start to perform certain actions. Lastly, we determine the reward for the habit that we want to change, which is the reason that we may have certain tendencies, so that they can be substituted for something else and be improved upon. So now here are some important tips that we found that could help you to practice building good habits. Firstly, do things one step at a time. Often, we get a rush of motivation to break habits, and it becomes an all or nothing attempt. However, this will often not be possible and can also be unhealthy. Bad habits need patience and time. Small steps must be constantly implemented to have your lifestyle adjusted. You will not want to trigger more bad habits by getting rid of one in a negative manner, so instead, look at it one step at a time and you will gradually see results. Habits get stronger with repetition. In this case, identify and control your cues. You could distract your mind, keep away from things, and redirect them so that you do not begin a loop. This can take time to figure out, but watching out for these cues can eventually help you to take note of your triggers and from there develop and repeat the behaviors that you wish to see. Create better, more specific routines that lead to good habits that you wish to develop. For instance, if you want to start your day earlier each day, do things that will help aid you in setting out a bedtime routine. Things such as eating less before going to bed, so you would feel ready to brush your teeth, or making use of your environment by dimming or turning off the lights, to gradually make your mind get used to these patterns. Strengthen your willpower and surround yourself with positivity. Expect a few bumps and be imperfect. Your attempts may not be successful right away, but the end goal will be worth it. So withhold judgment on yourself and receive positive reaffirmation from family and friends on the improvements that you have made. Make use of your physical environment. As fighting bad habits can also involve a barrier to entry, it can make things become an immediate option to you when we can manipulate with them in our environment. This makes it easier to pick up new habits by putting things in reach of you and by making them easily accessible. Motivating yourself through rewards. Bringing a reward into the habits that we inculcate will make it easier for us to develop the behaviors that we want to see, as the immediate consequences of good habits are oftentimes delayed, while bad habits rely on instant gratification. So by making sure to reward yourself, it will definitely go a long way. Finally, do it for yourself. Remind yourself to stay motivated and that you want to see the best for yourself, as feelings of guilt and empty intentions won't be enough. You have to be purposeful. Coming to the end of this video, using these tips and tricks, the possibility of harnessing the repeatability of our actions can be used to create positive changes. Remember, it's not just a repetition, but a consistency, so don't give up. The goal is to not just develop a habit, but to envision yourself to be the best type of person that you want to become, and develop the traits that you wish to see. Habits can be used to become someone new and forge a new sense of self. So if you're able to change yourself, you have the power to change your life.